Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 5:30 News on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jay Cohn.
And I'm Jeanelle Slade. Expansion plans for the Rosebud coal mine at Colstrip given the go-ahead from the state of Montana today.
The long-awaited environmental impact statement on the mine's expansion now complete, but the future of the mine and its parent company Westmoreland Coal still very much in the air.
The Rosebud coal mine, which feeds the Colstrip power plants, is looking to expand its footprint by some 10 square miles, a move that would extend the life of the mine through the year 2047.
But with the mine's parent company, Westmoreland Coal, now in the midst of Chapter 11 bankruptcy, exactly who will own the mine in the near and long-term future remains to be seen. Westmoreland has set a public auction for January 22nd to auction off the mine to the highest bidder. With so much uncertainty, environmental groups are questioning how state officials can proceed in approving the mine's expansion. Today I spoke with one of the groups questioning that decision. Ann Hedges, Deputy Director of the Montana Environmental Information Center, says this new environmental impact statement makes it clear that expanding the mine at Colstrip will do irreparable harm to the area's water quality.
The impacts to water quality and water quantity are significant. They are predicted to last, in many circumstances, over 100 years if they can ever be remedied. There's a number of instances when they state very clearly that there is no remedy for some of the harm that will be caused to water resources in the area from the mine. I just don't see how the state and the federal government would want to approve a mine for a company in such dire financial straits when the mine is going to be auctioned off in January.
Now today, a spokesman for Westmoreland Coal told Q2 that the approval of the mine's expansion today is certainly a positive development. The move to advance the project by the Montana DEQ comes in spite of protests from environmental groups who tried unsuccessfully to delay the decision until the mine's fate is determined next January.
The former owner of a dozen Montana hydropower plants is now countersuing the operators of the Colstrip plants.
At stake, $730 million in proceeds from the hydro plant sale and pension benefits for 320 workers at Colstrip. Just a month ago, Colstrip operator Talen Energy sued PPL over the proceeds of its 2014 sale of a dozen Montana hydropower dams. Talen says it's entitled to some of those proceeds, which it says are needed to pay Colstrip worker pension benefits and cleanup costs at the plants.
But on Friday, PPL fired back with its own lawsuit in a Delaware court. It says any dispute over the money should be settled in Delaware, where PPL is incorporated, and that Talen's lawsuits in Montana District Court should be dismissed. PPL also says Talen's owner, Riverstone Holdings, drained $500 million in cash from the company.
Friday's legal action from PPL says the Talen lawsuits are a brazen effort to blame PPL for Riverstone's, quote, avarice and recklessness. Officials with Talen say they plan to continue with its Montana lawsuit and will defend vigorously against PPL's action.
And ballots will be counted by hand as two Billings candidates look for a different outcome after narrowly losing their elections in November. The recounts filed to the Montana Secretary of State's office will take place on December 4th and 5th in the Yellowstone County Commissioner's boardroom. Candidate for House District 51, Darrell Wilson, is asking for a recount against Republican Fred Fleming. Meanwhile, the recount in the race for District Court Judge District 13 and candidate Julie Pierce will take place 8 a.m. on December 5th. Former federal attorney Ashley Harada pulled ahead of Billings lawyer Julie Pierce by 119 votes in that race. Now, Montana law determines that both recounts must be done manually.
Last night, a major development in the passage of a new farm bill. The top four congressional negotiators of the massive bill announcing an agreement in principle that paves the way now for its passage by the end of this year. Now, while details of the deal have not been released yet, CNN confirms that stricter work requirements for SNAP or food stamps will not be included. That controversial work requirement was part of a House bill that was passed this summer, but it was not part of the Senate bill. The 5-year farm bill is a huge piece of legislation. It sets farming policies in the country, including crop insurance, food stamps, and also changes in forest management policies. The previous farm bill from 2014 expired at the end of September. Today we did reach out to both Montana Senators Jon Tester and Steve Daines. They tell us while text of the bill has not been released yet, they do look forward to reading this bipartisan agreement and say they're encouraged by this recent progress.
Meanwhile, Montana Senator Jon Tester will be in the national spotlight this weekend.
Senator Tester, a guest Sunday on CBS's Face the Nation program. Today, Q2's Russ Riesinger had a chance to talk with host Margaret Brennan.
I'm curious, how do you think Tester is perceived there in Washington? He got a lot of attention, of course, President Trump taking personal aim at him during the midterms. But how do you think he's perceived there in Washington?
Well, that is exactly why he has gotten attention here in Washington. He seems to be a survivor. We want to talk to him about how he has won re-election. Is this a model that can be replicated elsewhere for Democrats? The criticism of the Democratic Party often is that they have forgotten about rural voters, about those in the middle of the country who perhaps at one time did vote Democratic. Is there a path back for Democrats, and is it a model that they can replicate, since Jon Tester showed he could win in Montana?
Anything else in particular that you're curious to ask him about?
Well, you know, this is a consequential weekend. The G20 summit is underway in Argentina. That means President Trump and President Xi Jinping will be meeting. And these are the two largest economies in the world locked in a trade dispute that Senator Tester says is really hurting Montana's farmers, other farmers in this country, because of the escalating tariff dispute. So there's a big question on Saturday when the two presidents meet. Can they resolve this? Can they even open the door to the beginning of a negotiation? A lot is at stake for large parts of this country, particularly the agricultural sector.
All right, thanks so much, Russ. Another key issue to be discussed, a possible government shutdown looming as early as next week.
You can catch Face the Nation starting at 8:30 Sunday morning right here on Q2.
Turning to the weather scene, although not as bad as we first expected, Bob, we are going to get some snow tonight. We can feel it in the air.
Yeah, it's snowing right now in parts of Billings, so on the west end. But let me show you what we do have going for us. We do have, starting at about 6 o'clock, in about 20 minutes from now, it's a winter weather advisory. Could see 3 to 6 inches of snow between now and noon on Sunday, and maybe some locally higher amounts. It covers a good portion of eastern Montana. And up there in the pink, look at that. That is a winter storm warning. Could see 6 to 8 inches of snow there, with local amounts up to about 11 inches. So let me show you how these things are doing right now. Doppler radar shows you the snow already moving into Billings Heights. It's moving into the central part of Yellowstone County, and we were expecting it to do that about this time. And then you'll notice our forecast model shows that stuff will continue to spin around the Billings area in south central Montana right on through tomorrow morning. And then on Saturday, look for more snow showers moving in, and then on Sunday, maybe a few lingering snow showers as well. So how much snow are we talking about? Well, it looks like by the time this thing's over and done with, by the end of the weekend, Billings could be looking at 2 to 4 inches of snow. We'll have more in the forecast in a few more minutes.
All right, thanks, Bob.
Coming up on your Q2 Friday night 5:30 news, this week marks a first in decades at St. Vincent Healthcare. That story right after this.
And coming up in sports, the Alaska Anchorage basketball team narrowly was able to escape the earthquake up in the far north this morning. This as they set to touchdown here in Billings tonight.
You're watching MTN News with Jay Cohn and Jeanelle Slade. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Green. This is the 5:30 news on Q2, Montana's news leader.